AI is getting better and better at tackling these really complex problems. Well, imagine one that can handle like college-level challenges.
Whoa.
That's Qwen 2.5 Max. It's uh it's the newest thing in large language models, and we're going to take a deep dive today. And get this, it was just announced like today, hot off the press,
Wow.
straight from the Qwen team's blog.
Okay.
They're making some pretty big claims, even going so far as to compare it to, the heavy hitters like DeepSeek V3 and GPT-4.
Huh. So what makes this one so special?
Well, I'm going to let our expert take this one.
So what's really interesting about this Qwen 2.5 Max is it's not just like big. It's built in a different way. It uses what's called a mixture of expert approach, or MOE for short.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. But for those of us who aren't, AI experts, what does that actually mean? And why should we even care?
So think of it like giving the model like specialized pathways for different types of problems.
Yeah.
So like if you ask it a really hard question,
Yeah.
it can basically send it to the right expert within its own system. Okay. Almost like having a whole team of AI specialists working on it.
So it's like dividing and conquering, but in the AI world. That makes sense.
Right, exactly. And because of this, it can handle way more information than your typical large language model.
How much more are we talking here?
It's been trained on 20 trillion tokens of data.
Whoa, 20 trillion. Okay. I don't even think I can wrap my head around that number. I mean, to give everyone listening some perspective, that's like every book ever written translated into every single language, like multiple times over.
It's massive.
It's huge. No wonder they're comparing it to the top AI models. But, okay, how do we even know if it lives up to all the hype?
Yeah. So they've put Qwen 2.5 Max through a whole bunch of tests or benchmarks. One in particular that stood out to me was this MMLU Pro. And this one's is really interesting because it tests for like genuine problem solving.
Yeah.
The kind you would need to solve college level problems.
Oh, wow.
Not just trivia or anything like that.
So it's actually thinking deeply, not just spitting out memorized facts.
Right, exactly.
That's really impressive.
And the results are, they're really something.
Okay, I've got to know. How did Qwen 2.5 Max do on these tests?
So it actually beat DeepSeek V3 on a good number of these benchmarks.
Really?
Which is a big deal.
That's huge.
Yeah, and even where it didn't come out on top, like on the ones that GPT-4 kind of dominates, it still performed really, really well.
Okay, so we're dealing with a serious contender here in the AI world, but I gotta be honest, there's a lot of jargon flying around. Base models, instruct models, can you break those down for us a little?
Yeah, absolutely. So a base model is kind of like the raw potential of the AI.
Okay.
It's learned from tons of data, but it's not really made for interacting directly with people.
Gotcha.
An instruct model is kind of like it's been trained specifically to follow instructions and have those back and forth conversations, which is why they're used a lot for, things like chatbots.
So that's why we see those chatbots popping up everywhere. Makes sense. So it sounds like Qwen 2.5 Max comes in both those flavors.
Yes.
But let's get real. All this talk about models and benchmarks is great, but what does it actually mean for someone who wants to, experience this AI? Like, if I'm listening and I'm interested, what can I actually do with it?
So you actually have a couple of options. The first one is Qwen Chat. It's a platform where you can directly talk to the model, ask it questions, give it prompts, all that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool way to get a feel for how it works.
And for anyone listening who's a bit more tech savvy, I see they also have an API available through Alibaba Cloud. They even give you a code snippet to help get started, which is nice.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people might not know what an API is.
Right.
So think of it like a doorway that lets you connect Qwen 2.5 Max into your own projects. So if you were making, let's say, an educational app, you could use the API to build in some of Qwen 2.5 Max's power.
Okay. So that means the possibilities are pretty much endless. From what I'm gathering, it seems like the team behind this has some really ambitious goals. I mean, they're even talking about using things like reinforcement learning to push Qwen 2.5 Max's intelligence beyond what humans are capable of.
That's a bold claim for sure.
That's a huge EE statement.
We're already seeing AI do amazing things, but exceeding human intelligence. That's like the next frontier.
Right. It's wild to think about.
Yeah.
Whether Qwen 2.5 Max can actually get there, who knows? But the results they've shared so far are definitely interesting.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see where it goes from here.
So it sounds like we're just at the beginning of understanding what this new AI model can actually do. But before we move on, I'm curious about how Qwen 2.5 Max stacks up against the other big names out there. I mean, we've talked about DeepSeek V3, GPT-4, but there's also, Claude and Llama and all those.
Right.
Where does Qwen 2.5 Max fit into the landscape?
So if you're looking at just the base models, Qwen 2.5 Max actually has a pretty big advantage in a lot of the benchmarks. It's important to remember, though, we don't have all the information about some of those other models, like GPT-4o and Claude 3.5 Sonnet.
Yeah, they're keeping some of their cards close to the chest.
Exactly. But even with that in mind, it's pretty impressive that Qwen 2.5 Max is already beating the open weight models like Llama 3.1
Yeah.
and even its own, like, little brother, Qwen 2.5
Yeah.
It definitely shows you the power of its architecture and all that training data.
Okay, so we've got this super powerful model. It's trained on this insane amount of data. It's doing really well in tests, and people can actually try it out through Qwen Chat or that Alibaba Cloud API.
Yeah,
What does this all mean for our listeners? Like, what are the big implications of this technology?
that's the question, isn't it? It's a big one, and I think it deserves its own deep dive. So if you want to explore the implications of Qwen 2.5 Max and what this means for the future of AI, join us for part 2.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Qwen 2.5 Max.
We've covered a lot of ground already, but it really feels like we're just getting started.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack here. And, thinking back to what we talked about earlier, with Qwen 2.5 Max being able to solve those, like, college-level problems,
Yeah.
it really got me thinking about the future of education.
It is pretty wild to think about. Like, what does it even mean for students if an AI can, you know, potentially understand these concepts that used to be like the domain of higher education? It's kind of crazy.
Right. One thing that comes to mind is, like, the possibility of AI tutors,
Oh, yeah.
powered by models like Qwen 2.5 Max. And, they could provide these really personalized learning experiences
Oh.
tailored to each student, their needs, their pace, all of that.
So it's like, imagine every student having access to like a super smart study buddy 24/7
Exactly.
to answer their questions, explain those really tough concepts, and even like adapt to their learning style. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, especially for, like, students who maybe don't have access to traditional tutoring or are struggling
Yeah.
in certain subjects.
Right. It could be a total game changer. It's like democratizing education in a way that we've never seen before.
Exactly. But of course, like any new tech, there are going to be some potential downsides too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It makes you wonder, like, what happens to the teachers in this kind of future? Do they become obsolete? Or does their role just change? What do you think?
It's a valid question for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's more likely that AI will become more like a partner to teachers,
Mm-hmm.
not replace them completely.
Okay.
Because teachers, they bring so much more to the table than just, information.
Right.
They inspire, they motivate, they build relationships.
Absolutely. And we can't forget all those essential skills that AI, at least for now, can't really replicate.
Right.
Like, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration. Those are all human skills.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be fascinating to see how the education system adapts, to incorporate this AI effectively
Yeah.
while still nurturing those core human skills.
Totally.
Mhm.
And speaking of adaptation, it's not just education that's going to be impacted. Qwen 2.5 Max has the potential to change so many fields,
Yeah.
from scientific research to healthcare to even like the creative industries.
Like, imagine what researchers could do with an AI that can analyze, like, mountains of data and spot patterns that would take humans years to find. It could speed up scientific discovery in ways we haven't even thought of yet.
It's mind-blowing, really. And what about healthcare? I mean, AI could help doctors diagnose diseases way earlier, personalize treatment plans, maybe even develop brand new drugs. We could see some major improvements in patient outcomes, maybe even save lives.
For sure. And think about everyday stuff, too. Customer service, content creation, even our personal assistants. AI could make so many things in our lives more streamlined, more personalized.
It's a lot to take in. It's exciting and kind of overwhelming at the same time. But I think it's important to talk about, like, the other side of the coin. What about all the concerns people have with AI?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the big questions is about jobs.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What happens in an AI-powered future? Are the robots taking over? Are millions of people going to be out of work?
It's a scary thought, right? It's normal to be worried about that. But I think it's important to remember that, like, throughout history, every time there's been a big tech advancement, yeah, it's shaken things up in the job market, but it's also created a ton of new opportunities.
Think about the internet. That
Exactly.
completely changed how we work, shop, everything.
Yeah.
But it also created all these new jobs and entire industries that never existed before.
Right. So, yeah, some jobs will probably become automated. but new ones that we can't even imagine yet will pop up. I think the key is going to be like being ready to adapt, developing those skills that are going to be in demand.
For sure. And those skills won't all be technical either. Things like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, communication, emotional intelligence, all those things are going to be even more valuable.
It's about working with AI, not against it. Using it as a tool to make us better, not replace us altogether.
It's like having a superpower assistant, taking care of the boring stuff so we can focus on what humans do best. Being creative, solving those tough problems, building relationships, and making a real difference in the world.
And that brings us to another really crucial point. We got to make sure this whole AI thing is being developed and used in a way that's like ethical, that aligns with our values as humans.
For sure. It's not enough to just create powerful AI. It has to be responsible AI. AI that benefits everybody, not just a select few.
Right. And that means we need to have those open and honest conversations about the potential risks, not just the benefits, about regulations and safeguards so AI is being used for good, not for harm.
And we need to make sure that everyone's voice is heard
Absolutely.
in shaping this technology.
Yeah.
That it reflects the values and perspectives of all of us, not just a small group of developers or, some big corporations.
It has to be a collaborative effort. So we've covered a ton in this part of our deep dive, from how AI could impact education and tons of other fields, to the economic and ethical things we really need to consider.
There's still a lot more to explore, though. In Part 3, we're going to be looking ahead. We'll discuss what you can actually do to thrive in this AI-powered world that's emerging and how you can be a part of shaping this tech for the better.
All right, welcome back. We've explored all these incredible capabilities of Qwen 2.5 Max, and we've really pondered all these massive changes it could bring. But now, let's get practical, right? What does this mean for you listening right now? How do you succeed, thrive in a world where AI is becoming this powerful?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? It's like we're trying to predict the future here.
Exactly. But we can at least look at where things are going, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you're listening and you're thinking, okay, this is cool and all, but I'm not a coder. I'm not a data scientist.
Yeah.
What does this have to do with me?
Well, first of all, this is going to affect almost every field you can think of, whether you're in healthcare, education, finance, even the arts. AI is going to change how things work.
Got it. So no matter what you do, AI is coming. Okay. But what about on a personal level? How do we, adapt as individuals?
One thing that's for sure is that whole lifelong learning thing. It's going to be more important than ever. The job market's going to be changing so fast. You got to be flexible, ready to learn new stuff.
So even if you're not, building the next Qwen 2.5 Max, being able to understand and use the AI tools is going to be crucial.
Absolutely. Almost like, back in the day, you had to learn how to use a computer.
Right, exactly. But it's not just the technical stuff either.
Right.
What about all those, uniquely human skills that AI, at least for now, can't replicate?
Those are going to be even more valuable. Think about creativity.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Critical thinking.
Problem solving.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
AI can crunch numbers and analyze data like crazy.
Yeah.
But it's humans who got to interpret those results, make decisions, come up with innovative solutions.
So it's like AI handles the grunt work, the information processing, and that lets us focus on the big picture, the creative thinking, the complex problem solving.
Exactly. And don't forget about emotional intelligence and those people skills.
Oh, yeah, those are huge.
Yeah, the world gets more digital. Being able to connect with people, build those relationships, collaborate, that's going to be more important than ever.
It's funny, right? The more advanced AI gets, the more those soft skills become, the things that are hard to replace. They're what set us apart.
Right.
But okay, let's bring it back to Qwen 2.5 Max for a second. We've talked about the potential, but what are some actual examples of how it could be used, soon in the real world?
So one area where I see huge potential is personalized learning.
Okay.
Imagine an AI tutor, right? Tailors lessons to you, answers your questions instantly, even changes its teaching style based on how you learn best. Qwen 2.5 Max, with how it can process info and solve problems, that could make this happen.
That'd be amazing. It could change everything for people who, don't have access to traditional education or maybe learn differently. And what about other fields?
Healthcare. AI could analyze those medical images to catch diseases early on. It could help doctors create treatments based on your specific genes and medical history.
In research too, right. Using Qwen 2.5 Max to go through those massive data sets and find those hidden patterns that would take forever for humans to find, it could lead to breakthroughs in, everything.
Everything. Medicine, climate change, space.
The possibilities are like endless. It's so exciting. But I gotta say, it's a little intimidating too.
I know what you mean.
There's just so much we don't know. It's natural to feel kind of overwhelmed.
It's this mix of like huge potential and the unknown that makes AI so fascinating.
But I think it boils down to this. AI is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's up to us as humans to make sure it's used to make things better for everyone.
We need to be aware of the risks. Talk about the ethical side of it. Make sure everyone has a say in how this technology shapes our future.
That's so important. So to everyone listening who's been with us on this deep dive into Qwen 2.5 Max, the future is being written right now, and AI is a big part of that story.
But it's not a story that's already written. We're writing it together.
Yeah.
So be curious, stay informed, join the conversation, and let's make sure AI helps us build a future that's both, super advanced and truly human.
That's a great way to put it. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed it and that you feel, empowered to be a part of this incredible AI-powered future that's unfolding.